What's up, guys? Commander Jaime here, and boy, we got Maelstrom today. So let's just get into it. Right off the bat, we got a new grade 2. So when I read this card first, I read these skills first. I didn't even realize it was 10k. So when I read the first effect, it would like lose 5,000 power if you didn't show a Maelstrom from your hand, or if you had it on Vanguard, which I thought was weird. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because it's base 10k. So that's actually pretty good for like defensive purposes in the early game, and it's a rigger that can't really be punched by a 9k even in the later game, so that's cool. The second skill though, once per turn, rigger skill, Counterblast 1, choose one Maelstrom card from your drop zone and put it into your soul. During this turn, this unit can attack from the back row and it gains 4k. This is awesome. It builds up soul. You get actually hit 11k vanguards. You become base 13, and it attacks from back row. So you can achieve the 4th battle pretty easily, even with 2 extra units that don't restand on the front. But we're gonna get into that. But this is actually a good card, I think. I'm not sure if he's a playset in the main deck. He seems like he will be, but we'll have to see with newer support if we get more cards still, or just random other cards that will work better with different reasons, right? And what comes to mind is that you have to fight over, with Tidal, you have to fight with other Blue Storm units, which I'll mention at the end. So that'll be definitely playtesting ratios. So the next card we got is the actual Lord Lee Maelstrom himself as the grade 3. He is basically the break stride for Maelstrom and Blue Storm, technically. So when your G unit, whose original name has Maelstrom strides, Counterblast 1, choose one of your cards in your drop zone that are, let's see. Yeah, choose one card from your drop zone, put it into your soul, and choose up to one Blue Storm card from your hand and call it a rear guard. So you could technically actually put anything in your soul. So it doesn't have to be like a Maelstrom card. Huh, neat. The call it a rear guard and negates the skill is the once per turn, when a battle in which this card attacks ends, stand this unit. So this makes any card with the Blue Storm name a restander, which is fantastic. You can make all your grade 3 Blue Storms restanders. You can make your grade 2s, such as like Rascal Sweeper, that is an 11k base if you have a Maelstrom Vanguard, also a restander, assuming you don't have anything in the back row, so it doesn't swap. You can make the other guy a restander too, attack from the back row, 13 again, which is nice. So this actually helps a lot with Maelstrom's problems. The problem I saw with Maelstrom is that you needed to commit a lot more to the field compared to the other variants. And with this makes one card a restander, helping you to achieve the 4th battle more consistently, which is really good, right? So with the second skill, GB2, Counterblast 1, when your turn ends, if you attacked 4 or more times that turn, you can pay the cost. If you do, draw 1 card and your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. So, wow. You actually get some advantage back at the end of your turn. So the problem with Aqua Force is that even if you put units on the field, you may have a smaller hand compared to like the tier 1 decks, and so it will be sometimes hard to keep up or even guarding in general. So you can die to a deck that can multi-attack better than you, which sucks. But with this, you're able to recuperate some hand back, and essentially the card you place that turn gets replaced. Not only that, you get to kill one of their rear guards, which is good because it weakens their field setup, causing the opponent to call more units from hand or other zones like the drop or the deck and so on. But mainly, it depletes their hand if they can't call units from other different zones, which is valuable. You're depleting their hand and you're depleting their field presence, which is really good. So yeah, next card, Engulf Maelstrom. So wave 4 only. During the battle and this unit attacks, your opponent cannot call cards from their hand or G zone to the Guardian Circle whose grade is less than the number of Maelstrom cards in your soul. So now we get why they're putting cards in soul, specifically Maelstrom like the grade 2. So generally the magic numbers that you want to hit is 2 Maelstroms in the soul, which means they can't guard with 1s nor 0s. So they can't even PG or use 10Ks to block. And then the next magic number will be 5, because then at that point they can't G-guard, which is ridiculous. For the most part, I think 2 in the soul will definitely be easy on first stride, because you got the break stride skill and you got this guy. So either of those cards help out, and then also you have access to Disaster Maelstrom, which actually is now better with this new Break Stride. And so that ability will actually be pretty easy for even a second stride or a first stride, depending on how the situation is. It's not GB restricted, it just continues Vanguard, wave 4 only. So the second ability is an act once per turn, also not GB2 restricted or more. Choose one face down card and flip it face up. You can flip any card. If there are 2 or more face up Maelstrom cards in your G zone during that turn, this unit gets +5 and a crit. So this means you can flip itself, or you can flip any of the Maelstrom grade 4s that we've had in the past. And currently we have Admiral Maelstrom, from the Fighters Collection. We have Disaster Maelstrom from GBT 09. And I think what's worth putting in the G zone is Disaster Maelstrom. Admiral is a little outdated, and what he does is when he hits the Vanguard, for how many copies you have to face up in the G zone and you Persona flip, retire, and you retire that many, but you only get to draw 1, I think, so that's kind of a drawback. But it's kind of like a board wipe in a sense. The only problem with that is that Admiral, once you get to that far point in the game to hit, it's your opponent's like at 4 or 5 damage, so they're not gonna let you hit because they're gonna die. So I don't think that seems too practical. Disaster Maelstrom, on the other hand, actually seems a little more practical as a first stride too, and it can help set up with your proper setup for this guy. So I think Disaster Maelstrom is actually worth putting in. We have to mess with the ratios because there are other great strides in Aqua Force, Lambros, Wailing, Commander, and so on. And who knows what we're getting in the set still that can be used by this deck too. So those are big. But yeah, I like this unit. I like this unit, and I actually like this unit too. These 3 cards actually are pretty good or better than before. The stuff that Maelstrom has gotten in the past is kind of mediocre and not really used. So this is a whole new change, which is really great. So I wanted to discuss some interactions with some of the older cards. We have Mario's, our starter. For basically, he retrieves your grade 3s if you hit wave 3rd or more when he boosted. So typically you want him behind the Vanguard, and with your Vanguard having some guard restriction, it's actually going to be easier to hit. So you're going to have a chance to check your top 5 for a Maelstrom card. That way you can add him and then pitch him to stride, or even call him the rear guard for an 11k attacker, or restander if you use the break stride skill. And then eventually if they get killed by something, they go to the drop anyway, right? So it helps with fetching grade 3s. It helps with striding too, if you really need cards to stride. So you can run less of the stride fodder. We have the crit trigger Despina. She seems irrelevant with the new stride, but in the case you need to go into Wailing, this is still relevant because you have the Maelstrom name. So keep that in mind. And then we have a grade 1 Theta. She's nice because when you have a Maelstrom Vanguard, she gets +2, so she's a 9k hitter. You could have her have the restand ability, poke a rear guard, restand, and on the second wave she gets an additional +3, so she hits a 12k mark, which she can attack Vanguard with. So that's nice. Next card we have is Homerus. We have the PG. I think this card might actually start leaving the deck and might be replaced by Plato or a better PG. The reason I say that is because the Break Stride counterblasts for each of his skill, and the new unit counterblast, and some of the other units that I'll mention also counterblast. So you might have to be watchful of your resources, or you play the Plato PG instead of Homerus. But she is a great card still. You can use her as a booster when you need her, and then she bounces back for a Soul Blast. And she only cares about the Blue Star name, so you can use this even prior to grade 3. Keep that in mind. We also have Tempest Blader as a grade 1. What she is, she's a 6k, but when she's placed on rearguard, choose another unit with a Blue Storm name, and it gets +3. So any of your 9k's rearguards get a +3, and they restand from the Break Strike skill, they're going to hit Vanguard. So you get benefit from that. So that's worth noting. You could also play Seagull Soldier, which I've thought to first, but I'm going to try this out and mess with Seagull as well with the ratios. Oh, there's my cat. So yeah. The next card is Coralia. She is a promo. What she does is that you choose a grade 3 in hand and discard it. So you automatically feed Maelstrom cards potentially in the drop already. And you search for the OG Maelstrom name. So this means the OG Maelstrom or the Break Ride. So you have options, but this helps fuel the drop zone faster with the Maelstrom cards. We have Gregorius, which is the 12k Blue Storm card. So if you have Blue Storm in the name, he's a 12k attacker. Again, he's a card that can be abusable with the restanding skill, so that's worth to note. And of course, you have a 7k booster with him, and he makes a 19k column, so even a grade 2 hits 19k. That's also to think about. Ionis is basically when he hits the Vanguard, and it's the third battle or more, you draw a card. I don't know if he's going to be really played more, but I think he's going to be outdue by another card, and I'll explain in a bit. We have Spyros, which basically he counterblasts one Blue Storm, and at the end of the battle, if it's the first or second battle and you have a grade 3 or grade Aqua Force, it stands. So you can use this to get to the fourth battle as a 1 card for 2 counterblasts. What I mean by that, you use the Break Stride on him, attack a rear guard, restand from the Break Stride skill, then this guy can attack the second battle to Vanguard and restand from his own skill, and he'll attack once more, so that's 3 times he attacks, and you'll get to the fourth battle that way. So that way your other column or other units are free to attack after the fourth battle too. So that's maybe worth to mention. The other guy we got is Rascal Sweeper. What I like about them, if you don't have counterblast or you want to save summon, you can swap him if he's the first battle with another unit. So it enables the fourth battle, and it's free. And then the other effect is that he's always an 11k attacker when your Vanguard is Maelstrom. So that's worth to know. So if you don't have a unit in the back row, it won't swap, and basically it becomes a beater restander. So with Maelstrom though, the OG in Break Ride form, he is searchable using Coralia, so it's worth to mention. And I'm not saying that you should use him for the Break Ride skill, but if you do riding him, he might be viable to potentially get another grade 3. But I mean, you could also play the OG if you want to search it off with the Coralia. That's it. This is the guy I was talking about, Sebastian, over the Ionis, basically, third time or more, when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if you have Blue Storm with a Vanguard, you draw a card and choose one of your opponents and kill it. So if you have this with the restanding ability, and it's third time or more, you have 2 chances to hit and draw and kill, which is awesome. This card is also abusable on a Lambros turn, just FYI. So the only slight problem, he's a grade 3, so he might be a 1 or a 2 off, and the rest of your lineup will be Maelstroms for the consistency of riding Maelstrom and also having the extra Maelstrom names. And then I think finally Disaster Maelstrom himself. You flip a copy of himself, and if you have a hard card with Maelstrom in the name, search for 1 card with Maelstrom in the name in your deck, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck, and then if you have a Maelstrom card in the soul already, choose up to 3 of your units in the front row and they get +5. And you can do this for stride. So this actually makes a power turn with your units too, if you want to be aggressive, and also sets up with for the next stride. That way you have already Maelstrom in the G zone, so when you do the new one, you'll be +5 plus crit, right? So I think it's more useful than Ammo. One more thing to note, I noticed that the grade 4 actually isn't restricted to Maelstrom in the name. It just cares about Maelstrom cards in the soul. So if there's a way to abuse that with different variants, I think Ripple comes to mind, because of Odysseus, you can shove things into soul and then search for a Ripple kind of thing and write it. Cards like that, you could be able to use this card. And to be honest, the magic numbers you want to hit is 2 and 5 in the soul. So if you can get 2 Maelstrom cards in the soul easily in a different variant, you have access to this guy, which is pretty nice actually, if you really wanted to use it. But yeah, this is very exciting, guys. Like, holy shit, I am excited for playing Maelstrom again, and this could actually make it more competitive. So I hope you guys like this. If you guys have any combos or plays that I didn't have mentioned, please comment down below. I like to hear them, and we can work things out, figure out new strategies, and make this better as a deck. So next time, see you guys. Remember,